Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josh Castleberry. I run the environmental programs at Central Carolina Technical College. And today I'd like to talk to you just a little bit about the water audit requirement from the South Carolina Energy Office. Basically, if we look at section 48, 52, 9, 10, you could just pause it and read it if you want to read this. But basically, what we're saying is that the Energy Office is going to require you to do a water audit, but you're not going to have to submit separate paperwork. This is going to go on your annual progress report, usually called the energy consumption report. So I just wanted to ease your mind on that. This is not an additional burden. This is something that is required by law, and it's going to benefit you as well. When you are done with this particular presentation, if you have any questions about a lot of the things I've talked about, a lot of them are covered by the EPA WaterSense. And what WaterSense is, well, it's a program launched in the 2006 by the Environmental Protection Agency. The idea is to decrease indoor and outdoor non-agricultural water use and to help consumers make water-efficient choices. So ideally, when you see this WaterSense certified seal on a toilet or a flapper valve or any type of fixture, that means that you are getting something that's high quality that will help you save water, which in the end will help you save money. Or it will help you save money, but also energy. And part of the EPA WaterSense process is to establish and standardize rigorous certification criteria. So again, when you see that seal, ideally, you know that you're getting a good product that's going to help you save water. So what I'd like you to do now is you should have in front of you a piece of paper, the water audit from the Energy Office. It's available on their web page. If you have to pause me, go ahead and pause me. Go over to the web page, pull it up. And you'll notice that there are numbers beside the bullets that I'm talking about. Those are going to correspond with the Water Audit Checklist. So you can go down the checklist, and as I talk about, as I highlight some of the things, you can highlight them in your notes. So under Basic Facilities Management, you look at number 1, and what you see is check water meters to make sure they are working properly for accurate daily, weekly water usage measurements. This is getting a pulse of your facility, figuring out how much water you're actually using. This is going to help you determine if there is a large leak later on or several small leaks. If you see your water usage increase, then you've got to have a baseline before you can determine whether you're increasing or decreasing. So you need to make sure that your water meters are working properly. Put up signage in the bathrooms, to turn off the faucets if you have the old faucet type where you have to turn instead of the sensor type. You have signs to check for and report leaks. If you have the half flush option, sometimes people don't understand the difference in the two flush system. So you could just have signage. Basically what you are doing here is communicating to your public, to your users of your facility, what you want them to do to conserve water. And as evidenced by this video, communication is essence. It's very key, important in getting a message out there and to make this thing work. And of course, if people don't know that you want them to do something, then they won't know to do it. Another good idea is that you have a lot of water conservationists in your midst, whether you know it or not. If you put up suggestion boxes, allow people to have some input into the process, they're more likely to buy into the process. That way, if they see something where you could potentially save some water, save some energy, save some money, then they have the input into that process. They feel more involved in that process. So it's a win for them, and it's a win for you. All right, now let's go to the bathroom. Not literally, mind you. If you have to, you can pause the video and go to the bathroom. But figuratively, let's go to the bathroom on our checklist. If you have the old flapper valve toilets, you can purchase dye tab tests, and you basically dye the water in the tank, and it helps you determine if there's any water leaking through that flapper valve, which will then eventually go over the S curve and down into the septic system and wastewater. And small leaks in flapper toilets can have disastrous results. If you don't believe me, ask anybody with a septic tank that has ever had a leaky toilet. It can cause some big problems in terms of wasted water, which is, of course, wasted energy. In the old flushometer, you can use displacement bags, provided that you have a 3.5 gallons per flush or higher single flush toilet. Or you could adjust the float arm to reduce the flush volume. All you would have to do in that case is that metal rod on your floater, just bend it down a little bit so that it pushes the valve up more quickly. If you don't want to purchase a displacement bag or get a water-saving diaphragm, if you don't want to purchase those things, go out to your backyard there where you've got all those bricks stacked up and put a couple of bricks in there. It's not as fancy, but in a lot of cases it works just as well. Of course, it's more difficult to deal with, and then there are other issues to deal with them. So just do whatever is going to work best for your facility. If we go to the kitchen and canteen now, I realize that a lot of your facilities aren't going to have kitchens or canteens, but some of you will. If you look at number 20, this definitely applies to kitchens and canteens, but it applies to a couple of other places as well. When you turn on the hot water, if you do not have one of those instant water heaters that is at the point source, if you've got a tank that's 30, 40, 50 feet away and you've got to wait for that hot water to travel to the line to get hot, well, you're wasting water from that cold water. Just go ahead and collect it in the bin. Water the plants in your windows. If you have an old flusher type valve, you can use that to flush toilet. Whatever you need to use it for, you can be creative. That's where those suggestion boxes might come in handy. Use some of your creative people and use that alternative or that wasted water for alternative uses so that it doesn't get wasted. Now we're moving into my favorite area of a facility, which is the outdoor area. Now we're going to be talking about rainwater and gray water systems. Rainwater and gray water are fantastic because there's this major source of unused water that has the potential to save a lot of water in other places. That said, we need to be very careful that we are complying with all state and local regulations, DHEC regulations, EPA regulations, because while gray water is good for a lot of uses, you want to minimize contact with people because you don't want to risk spreading pathogens. And rainwater is fantastic stuff too, but rainwater also has the potential to pick up contaminants. So again, they are fantastic things, but before you delve into these next couple, just go ahead and do your research, figure out what system is going to work best for your facility, look at the cost, see if the cost and the benefit balance out, and if it does, and the possibility exists that you can get ahead, go for it, because these are really cool systems. So you can collect rainwater for non-potable needs by using rain barrels or cisterns. The folks at Carolina Clear, which is a Clemson extension group, are really good about having rain barrel workshops. I'm sure there are other groups out there that do that. Find a rain barrel workshop. They'll teach you what you need to know. Rain barrels can be very pretty. They can be very utilitarian. They are also very good educational things if you are an educational group. For example, a school, middle schools, elementary schools, great way to talk about resources, water resources, and conservation. Another thing you can do, you skip down a couple to number 32, is establish monthly water budget based on the water needs of plants. All plants are not created equally in terms of water use. The succulents require a great deal of water, whereas the xerophytes, the dry-loving plants, they don't need so much water. So figure out how much water your specific plants need and don't overwater. Don't underwater, but don't overwater. You can install timers, soil moisture sensors, and rainfall shutoff devices on your irrigation systems, because it's really not a good idea to have your sprinkler system on after 3 days of rain when the ground is already saturated, because that water is going to essentially run off your property, and in addition to wasting that water, you're also potentially creating other pollution hazards in the form of non-point source pollution. If your irrigation equipment does not have those rainfall shutoff devices, go ahead and turn it off when there's adequate rainfall. Assign that to somebody. Say your job is to turn off the sprinkler system when we have had X number of inches of rain. Get yourself a little rain gauge, stick it somewhere, have them do it. People are smart, they can figure it out. Now let's go on to a little bit more advanced stuff here. Going back to the bathroom, consider the use of rainwater collection and supply to augment flushing. When these systems are installed properly, they are really neat systems, really fantastic systems. You collect the rainwater in a cistern, you have a pump system, and you use that to flush your toilets. So instead of having clean, treated water come into your toilets, you've got rainwater, which is pretty clean and treated naturally for the most part, come in, and you use that to flush down your system, your toilet, your solids, your wastes down the toilet to the wastewater treatment plant. But please note that it says to augment flushing. Even when a really good system like this is put in place, you still have to have potable water from the city or from whatever your potable water supply is to help flush the toilets, because you don't want to get to a point where you're in a drought and there's no rainwater to flush the toilets and the toilets need to be flushed. That's not healthy. That's not good for anybody involved at all. There's a system here where you've got the rain runner device, and it carries water to a water tank with a municipal water supply coming in, and then that is pumped into primarily toilets, possibly washing machine, depending on the level of cleanliness of your rainwater. If you have a laundry facility on your facility, use the rainwater tanks for supplying rainwater to the washing machines. Again, for the most part, that water is pretty clean. It's got some sedimentation in it, or a particulate matter in it, not sedimentation. But it's been cleaned through the evaporative process. You can collect washing machine gray water once you're done with it, treat it, and reuse it for irrigation. And there's an example of a really fantastic setup that has the rain leaders going down to a cistern, which then supplies water to the house, and then that gray water then is treated and goes back out as irrigation water. Let's get the most use out of your water that you can. So once again, going back outside, utilize South Carolina friendly landscaping techniques. Well, more importantly, in addition to the techniques, South Carolina friendly landscaping plants. The plants that are native to South Carolina are native to our climate, which means they tend to do well once they are established. Once a native plant is established, it's used to the climate, it doesn't require as much water. If you're bringing in ornamentals from high water areas with lots of precipitation, then those are going to require more water, which means you're going to have to be the one to water them, because our climate's not going to do it for them. And you're thinking, but ornamentals are pretty, and South Carolina's native plants are ugly. Well, I tend to disagree with you. We have fantastic, beautiful plants in South Carolina. This one is a native grass, Muhlenbergia capillaris, or mully grass. It makes a great texture. It's a beautiful plant. And if you have any questions, say you want to do this. Maybe you want to, over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, phase out lots of ornamentals and have native plants so that you have native plant foods. There are a lot of benefits to having native plants. Where do you go for help? Well, there are a lot of places you can go. There are landscapers that specialize in xeriscaping or native xeriscaping. And a lot of those are members of the South Carolina Native Plant Society. And there are a lot of resources on the South Carolina Native Plant Society webpage that can help you figure out what plants to plant. Another thing, if you look at number 75, that seems sort of counterintuitive is to adjust your mowers to the highest possible setting specific to the type of turf in use. I'm going to lay down just a little quick ecology for you guys. Taller grass means shadier ground, which means cooler grounds, which means less evaporation, which means you have to water them less often. So the taller the plant is, the less water it needs for a lot of grass. Counterintuitive, I know, but it makes sense in ecological terms. This one, go ahead and highlight it, put a star by it, underline it, whatever you got to do. Develop a policy to ensure that when a fitting or fixture requires replacing, that it is replaced with the most water efficient option, ensuring it does not compromise other resources such as energy. Things are going to happen, faucets are going to break, toilets are going to start leaking. When that happens, not if that happens, but when that happens, what is your process that you have in place to replace them, to make sure that you've got the right faucet in place? As you can see, there are a plethora of options for you. There are tons of options, and it just takes a little bit of effort, possibly just looking for that EPA water scent seal, and you can have, in a matter of one cycle, you can have a much more water and energy efficient facility than you have right now. You can make things better. There are also a lot of potential savings. One recent South Carolina Energy Office energy audit looked at an example facility. This example facility spent about $120,000 replacing fixtures. Now, this was a really old facility and the fixtures were extraordinarily outdated. But they spent about $120,000 and sort of replaced everything all at once. What they found is they ended up saving about 3,364 cubic feet, about 450 gallons, and 12,000 kilowatt hours. And the payback for that, in terms of energy savings, was less than 4 years. So they had less than 4-year payback on a $120,000 investment. Now, I don't know about you, but I would say that was a very worthwhile investment. I don't know that your facility is going to have that dramatic an increase, but it very well may. The Energy Office is just asking you to look at things. That's what you're going to do. That's why you have this checklist, so that you can go through, figure out what you can do better, how you can save energy by saving water, and make those changes where it is economically feasible for you to do so. So in summary, water conservation is energy conservation. It's the same thing. The Water Conservation Checklist is available on the Energy Office website. You need to have your audit done by July, but you're not going to report your findings until October, and you're going to report those findings with the annual progress report, which we sometimes call the energy consumption report. Well, that's it. That's all I have for you. I hope this clarifies the Energy Office water audit for you. And if you have any questions, I'm sure the Energy Office is more than willing to help. Just give them a call. Have a good day and good luck.